Chapter 2. In Chapter 1, we went over the blatantly obvious sign that most squires, castratos, and freemartins perform in an attempt to subvert the biological male's eyes, or reality. Yet there is so much more to this topic. So much more to the question. Does the general populace realize that they are gender inverted? Let's just start at the beginning. Literally. Genesis. Question. What is a woman? No, I mean seriously, what is a woman?
Genesis 24. And God said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind.
His kind, not her kind. That is very important. Do notice the male orientation.
25. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. 26. And God said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness.
Let us. And this us is... Oh, that's right. The angels. This one verse alone explains an extraordinary amount about the modern Bible or Quran we have today. Let us clearly state there was a group of angels classified as God, I guess you could say, which is Elohim, as it is common in the Bible to mistake a high-ranking angel as an Elohim or the Elohim, as in Abraham and Lot's cases with the three lords. Your average bozo Freemartin preacher would often try and confuse the biological man by saying, oh, this verse is talking about the Lord and that one God. Yet that is adjacent from the truth. The second part of this verse is also illuminating, as it states that both the image of the angels are like that of a man. Notice man, not Adam. Yet again, we come to a plural man. Just from this one verse and the verses above, we come to realize that there seems to be a civilization consisting of the souls of man. Hawa, Leba, the Elohims, and the man. And there will be people like, oh, that term man also consisted of woman as well as it's a general term in the Bible. No, madam, it does not in this context, as that would insinuate that the right angles, the angels, or rather the straight lines of pure, supplicating radiance are female. Yet that is far from the truth, as only in hair of this prism of water does it bend and curve light, that having curves, needing a sun, or rather sons, a soul, and not being able to fully handle extreme radiance of testosterone in such a context is a biological female thing.
The Targum 26. And the Lord said, Let us create man in our likeness, similar to ourselves, of 15, and let them rule over the fishes of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. 27. And the memory of the Lord created the man in his own likeness.
Yet again, look at how the Freemartins added colon in a likeness from before the Lord. He created him, colon, semicolon, male and his partner. Male and his partner. He created them in a feeble attempt to make it seem like a woman was created. As I mentioned before, these comments are a blatant Amazonian insertion into the text. These comments would have you believing that there was a moon in the sky at this point, in time when the moon wasn't even around back then. Attempting both in the Targum and in the Bible to get a biological male to believe the moon, the earth projection, and the rainbow was the other light. Side note, the other greater light is another sun, but that is a different topic. I just really want you to see how they are trying to force the female in this context in, as if them not being mentioned is maddening. To build on top of what we just mentioned, verse 28 mentions this.
28. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it.
Most people would be like, oh,
That proves that the comment,
the male and female thing was probably right then. But that would be incorrect in the logic, as chapter 2, verses 15 is clearly indicating the angels took the MANs that were made in verse 7 and placed them in the Garden of Eden, there Jerusalem at that time.
Genesis chapter 2, 15. And the Lord God took the man, and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And thereafter, verse 18. And the Lord God said, It is not good that the man should be alone. 16. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. Notice the comma at the end of this verse, meaning verse 17 isn't real. Just something to note.
Odd. What do they mean by alone? I thought the previous verses mentioned that women were made. Oh, well that's right. No, only a group of MANs were made. And with this verse magically, after a character called Adam just so happens to appear in the text, then bam, Adam appears as if not made in the same way as the MANs before. This is something that everyone should make note of. Beyond this point, it's clear now that there are 5 different males on earth at that current time. The man angels, the clay man, Adam the higher beast, the Jacobs at that time, the beast and the bird, hybrid man, Adams, Gentiles, basically, and lastly the actual animal males. In short, just paralleling the heavens, it's basically a male paradise. That is Eden. That is quite literally their intent. They said, let's make a copy of ourselves. Everything in and on the earth is meant to be a copy, a water mirror. As some people might not get what I mean by copy, let's get the description of the angels to really hammer this home. Let's look at the description of the angels, the Elohim, the straight angles.
The Torah uses the Hebrew terms Malach Elohim, messenger of God, Malach Yahweh, messenger of the Lord, Bene, Elohim, sons of God, and the holy ones to refer to beings traditionally interpreted as angels. The term Malach is also used in other books of the Hebrew Bible. In the early stages of Hebrew writings, the term refers to human messengers, not to supernatural entities. A human messenger might be a prophet or priest, such as Malachi, my messenger. The Greek superscription in the Septuagint translation states, the book of Malachi was written by the hand of his messenger, Angelou. Examples of a supernatural messenger are the Malach, Hawa, who is either a messenger from God, an aspect of God, or God himself as the messenger, the theophanic angel.
Interesting. And you do see this throughout the biblical text. Often you have to look closely to identify them as being a angel lord or an Elohim. But the one part about just a random male man Jacobs, being a messenger of the Quran, man and angel are interchangeable. In Daniel 7, Daniel receives a dream vision from Hawa, and Daniel watches the Ancient of Days take his seat on the throne of heaven and sits in judgment in the midst of the heavenly court. And an angel, like a son of man, approaches the Ancient One in the clouds of heaven and is giving the everlasting kingship.
In Daniel 7, Daniel receives a dream vision from God. As Daniel watches, the Ancient of Days takes his seat on the throne of heaven and sits in judgment in the midst of the heavenly court. An angel, like a son of man, approaches the Ancient One in the clouds of heaven and is given everlasting kingship. Jeffrey Burton Russell writes that the more the Banim and the Malak were seen as distinct from the god, the more it was possible to thrust upon the evil elements in the divine character that Yahweh had discarded.
Ronda 1 is yet again being described as a man with white woolly hair, and the Lord's gods, the Elohim, are described as a man in Genesis. Belief in angels is fundamental to Islam. The Quranic words for angel derives either from Malak, meaning the he controlled, due to their power to govern different affairs assigned to them, with the broad meaning of a messenger, just like a counterpart in Hebrew, Malak. Unlike their Hebrew counterparts, the term is exclusively used for heavenly spirits of the divine world. The Quran refers to both angelic and human messengers as Rasul, instead a broad messenger. So like a biological man. Noticing the pattern here?
Archangels. Despite their title, which means first angels or leader angels, in Greek, archangels traditionally ranked low on the angelic hierarchy in medieval Christianity, perhaps because of their relatively plain humanistic features, but they receive a more exalted place in Judean angelology, thanks to their names and their designation as princes. In several passages, the only angels in the Bible with individual names are all archangels. 3 are commonly accepted, though Orthodox Christians have a much longer list. Michael, a great prince and protector who does battle against Satan and other demon princes. Gabriel interprets Daniel's visions and announces to Zechariah and Mary the advent of their children. Raphael, Tobit, and Thurau accompanies Tobit on his journey and helps him expel demons and heal blindness.
Shocker. They are all being described as biological, broad-shouldered, long neck, long torso, long arms, woolly-haired, and white face. I mean, man. How about the other angels?
Cherubim in the Bible are radically different from the chubby little guys with arrows they are commonly depicted as today. In fact, they are quite terrifying, fearsome protectors. They first appear in Genesis alongside a flaming, turning sword to guard the Garden of Eden against anyone who might want to try getting back in after Adam and Eve's expulsion. They also adorn the cover of the Ark of the Covenant in Exodus 25, and much later, Solomon's Temple, always guarding against people trespassing where they do not belong. When Moses speaks to God in the tent of meeting, God's voice comes from between the 2 cherubim. The cherubim take center stage in Ezekiel 10. Here's how Ezekiel describes them. They're hovering between burning, whirling wheels below and a sapphire form resembling a throne. Their wings are as loud as God's voice. Their entire bodies are covered with eyes. They have 4 faces. A cherub. It's unclear what this means, but it's often depicted as an ox, a human, a lion, and an eagle. You caught that last part there. These Freemartins, these Amazonians, are so sick and willfully ignorant to the blatant fact of the description. Why would the commenter here place that kind of description after the colon? Let's take a look at a quote. Bull, broad face, large eyes, far apart eyes, high prominent brow ridge, broad nose as that of a copper-colored man, broad mouth, sloping forehead, long broad neck, elongated face, broad and high cheekbones, and the strong broad jaw. See where I'm going with this? The second was the face of a man. Shocker. And all of the above mentioned. Third, the face of a lion. Broad face, large eyes, broad nose, broad mouth, far apart eyes, broad and high cheekbones, strong jaw, sloping forehead. Where have I heard this before? Long, broad neck and woolly-like hair. Lastly, eagle, broad face, large eyes, far apart eyes, long neck, sloping forehead, wide mouth or beak, but most prominent about the eagle, high, thick, V-shaped eyebrows, causing that fierce look. Combine and you get a biological, copper-skinned man. Hence, what was a man with extra wings beside his broad shoulders and long arms, flying, basically.
5. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man. 6. And every one had 4 faces, and every one had 4 wings. 7. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. 8. And they had the hands of a man under their wings on their 4 sides, and they 4 had their faces and their wings. 9. Their wings were joined one to another, they turned. Not when they went every one straight forward. 10. As for the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of a man, and the face of a lion on the right side, and they 4 had the face of an ox on the left side. They 4 also had the face of an eagle. 11. Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upward. 2 wings of every one were joined, one to another, and 2 covered their bodies. 12. And they went every one straight forward, whither the Spirit was to go, they went, and they turned not when they went. 13. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps, it went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning.
Ezekiel 1. Same 4 faces. And their feet were straight feet. The Amazonian just have to put their thoughts on that verse as well after the colon. And the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. So, a biological, copper-skinned man's short, straight gait and legs. Right. It's disturbingly simple when you put it together. Magi man, flying man, dragon man, angel man, messenger man, biological man. Now, back to Eden.
Genesis 2:21. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. 22. And the rib, which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. 23. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man.
Meaning, man A made man B, Adam, and man A, the Elohim's man, then made for fun woman's, who came way after the events of making both man's A and man's B, Adam. A lot of people just fly over Genesis, when it's by far one of, if not the second most important books besides Torah in the text. But the question comes to the surface, and it's somewhat answered in part 1. Yet why are they doing it? I mean, what exactly is the point of hiding the fact that the angels are just copper-skinned men or mans? It's such a simple thing. And who is this they? This conglomerate of gender inverts messing with everything. We are getting there. Let's start with the who's they first.
Psalms 83. Lo, thine enemies make a tumult. 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. 4. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation. 5. For they have consulted together with one consent. 6. The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes. 7. Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. 8. Ashur also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot. Selah. 9. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kison. 10. Which perished at Endor, they became as dung for the earth. 11. Make their nobles like Oreb, and like Zeb, yea, all their princes as Zebah, and as Zalmunna. 12. Who said, Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession.
This was at that time a future vision or prophecy at that time for today. This very time period we're in, supposedly composed by the King Davids at that time. Yet, how do we know if it's for today and not just some old Jack's paranoia and conspiracy theory against these other nations. Well, by a person asking that question, it shows you truly don't understand the level of willful evil we are dealing with. Question: who and what is Edom? I'll wait a bit. Most people, quote unquote, don't seem to know from preachers, teachers, or general study students of the text who on earth this group of nations are. I would strongly recommend in your free time, if you truly are interested in this topic, after you finish watching this video, of course, to read through the complete book of Jasher. It will make so much more sense on your future studies.
Genesis 25:21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. 22. And the children struggled together within her. 23. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. 25. And the first came out red, all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. Jasher, chapter 26, verse 14-13. And when her days to be delivered were completed, she knelt down, and behold, there were twins in her womb, as the Lord had spoken to her. 14. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and all the people of the land called his name Esau, saying that this one was made complete from the womb. 15. And after that came his brother, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel. Therefore they called his name Jacob. 16. And Isaac, the son of Abraham, was 60 years old when he begat them. 17. And the boys grew up to their 15th year, and they came amongst the society of men. Esau was a designing and deceitful man, and an expert hunter in the field, and Jacob was a man perfect and wise, dwelling in tents, feeding flocks, and learning the instructions of the Lord and the commands of his father and mother.
Something is off about this chapter. When we examine just a bit closer, a number of contradictory points are made.
Clearly, they noticed something was off about Esau.
Esau coming out red or ruddy. Hello, almost everyone was ready. Copper or swarthy red. Oh, and before these people come around screaming flag at me, Ben Franklin's statement, remember the climate almost everywhere was notably tropical, and the Maccabees verse or verses about the heathens. Therefore, why even mention that Esau was red all over? How about the hairy garment? Hey, that's it, right? No, just like the red all over, the hairiness is being overstated. Was it the fact that the people around Esau said Esau was a designing and deceitful man, an expert hunter in the field? No. They saw something before all that. We will get back to this in a little bit. The following is a slightly encrypted text you can go through. Here's the channel as well if you're interested. On this, I will just say follow along as best you can. Take everything here with an increasing amount of salt.
This is the Torah of Ascension. Question 1. The beginning of sin. She was to the daughter of Zion, for in you were found the transgressions of Israel. Micah 1013. Who is she? Who is the beginning of the sin to the daughter of Zion? This refers to the supernal Ima, who created without Abba, as it is stated in the Zohar. Bereshit A, verse 163. Ima said, because his sins are related to Ima and not Abba, I wish to create him in my own image, as it is written. So Elohim created man in his own image. Note that it is not written in our own image, because she did not want Abba to have any share in his creation. Bereshit A, verse 174. When Adam sinned, it was written, and for your transgressions was your mother put away. The king said to Ima, did I not tell you that he was going to sin? Why did you create him? In that instance, he exiled him and his mother. Therefore it is written, a wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is the grief of his mother. A wise son alludes to man in the world of Atzilat, namely Zair Ampin, and a foolish son alludes to man in the world of Bria, namely Adam, whose soul comes from the world of Bria.
Yes, the transgression word is similar to what you're thinking throughout much of the Torah. We will get back to that throughout the chapters. On these pages, we get the idea that someone, specifically a female figure or figures, are creating someone or something, the process of which is a surplus of errors, because this person, they aren't genetically or rather physically supposed to. As such, this snake-like alchemical process ends up creating what can best be described as a mother's sin, or rather, just sin. She, or rather this group of females, ended up creating some form of flesh-based homunculus, a foolish son, or rather, sons in air quotes I should say, over and over, transgressing and trespassing the law. Now, what are these females transgressing?
Question 2. Who is this Malkuth? In the beginning, Malkuth. This Malkuth refers to the Malkuth of Atziluth. Malkuth equals 496. This is the same value as Samael the serpent, 496, and the value of Leviathan, 496.
Leviathan, as I mentioned before. Do you remember? Sea monster from the Black's Law Dictionary. Yeah, that. But besides that, there's certain whispers in the air about there actually being two Leviathan, but one had to be put down, let's say, in some way.
Regarding the words serpent and Leviathan. This serpent is Samael. It is written, "In that day God will punish. With a great, cruel, mighty sword, Leviathan the elusive serpent, Leviathan the twisting serpent, the dragon of the sea will be slain." Question 3. What is referred to here by the beginning is Chokmah. The beginning is Chokmah. He was castrated as Malkuth, i.e., the female was disconnected from Yesod, the place of the reproductive organ. Malkuth, i.e., the Nukva, was slain and then descended. Regarding this descent, the word Bereshit, the soul in Samael Zaken fell. Question 4. Who is he? He is the beginning of the ways of El-Ace. He in the passage refers to Behema, and the word Behema has the value of 52, the same value as the word son, 52, and also hints to the 52-letter name of Hashem, which is the name corresponding to Malkuth from which was referenced in the beginning. The final letters of the phrase spell the word dragon, meaning at the head of Attic. In them were weighed those who had no weapons, namely the kings. But the essence of the scales lies in the body, meaning the central column that is Tiferet, where judgment lies. This judgment does not unite and is not visible in the scales. In these scales, the lights of the left ascend from below, upward, and in them rise those that were not, those that were, and those that will be. For this dragon, which is the secret of the kings of Edom, was hung in a place which it was not before, i.e., the head of Atik. It is known these 7 kings are the 7 letters which have 3 tagin, the secret of the weapons, as will be explained in its proper place. The word Bereshit can now refer to the son of the mother, as the word begins with the 3 letters which has been established, hints to Beriah, and the remaining letters, Kai, meaning 6, alludes to this son, which are the lower 6. Hence the word Bereshit is the son of Berai, i.e. that foolish son who is the grief of his mother. Regarding this dragon, our sages state, this is Neshash Leviathan Acalatum. It is also stated it is in the form of a crooked snake, and it is composed of fire and ruach, and is located in the 4th firmament. Question 5. What is meant by Babylon and Aresh? What are these kingdoms? He is hinted at by Babylon, and so it is written, the beginning of Malkuth kingdom from Babylon and Aresh. Confusions, by the way. Who names a kingdom confusion? What were they confused about? Bereshit 9:13. He, the fool. Samael and Lilith 9:13. Sandalphon has the value 280, which is the fool fell, referring to that foolish son. Question 6. This is also hinted at in Amalesh, as it is written, the beginning of the nations is Amalesh. Now Amalek and Babylon are the secret of Sandalphon. Therefore, the value of Sandalphon 280 is the value of Babylon and Amalek 280. This refers to an aborted fetus, and this is the secret of Talmud Tractate, Niddah 25.
Amalek, if you don't know, is a clan of Esau, Edom. Notice how Edom keeps popping up. Interesting, isn't it?
The Mishnah teaches that a woman who discharges a sandal fetus, or one who discharges an afterbirth, observes the strictures of a woman who gave birth both to a male and to a female. The sages taught in a Baraita, a sandal fetus has a similar appearance to a certain fish of the sea known as a sandalfish. It looks as though it is a full-fledged offspring from the outset, but it was mashed. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, a sandal fetus has an appearance that is similar to the tongue of the large bull. Students testified in the name of our teachers that for a sandal fetus to have the halakhic status of an offspring, it requires the shape of a face. This sandal is Sandalphon, as it is written in the Zohar. I do not change. I is the Shechina, Yud He Vav. He is the central pillar, namely Zia Anpin. A man pulled off his shoe refers to Sandalphon, who is a sandal by the Holy One, blessed be he, and a shoe by the Shechina. But Tiferet, that includes 6 Sphirot, is a body to the name Yud He Vav, He, and Malchut is a body to the Shechina, that is Adonai. Thus we see the sandal, who is Sandalphon, is the aborted fetus, and it is likened to a fish being the secret of the foolish king, which is the secret of that Tannin, as has been explained. Now the reason for it emerging with its face on its back is because the backsides of the Sephiroth refer to the emanation of a thing, and here Sandalphon emerged in the secret of the backside of the Sephiroth. Furthermore, the foolish king emerged on the backside of the fullness, which is the place of his exile. Now we will explain the process of his emanation, and it is important to understand that the emanation of a thing refers to the backside of the Sephiroth. It is also important to understand that the squaring of a name refers to the backside and the emanation. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says, the halakha is that a sandal fetus requires the shape of a face for it to have the status of an offspring. Rav Ada says that Rav Yosef says that Rabbi Yitzhak says, a sandal fetus requires the shape of a face, but the face does not need to be in its proper location, even if the face is on the back of its head. The fetus has the status of an offspring. A parable to which this situation can be compared is that of a person who slapped another in the face and pushed his face back. Here too, the face of the sandal fetus was pushed back due to external pressure.
Again, with the strange reference to a fetus. What's interesting about this is the fact that the said fetus is being described as a fully grown, ugly in appearance, and more than likely twins of some kind. Do note that.
To expand further, the foolish son is called the man of Beriah, as it has been established, and Adam is male and female, as it is written. And Elohim created humankind in its image, creating it in the image of Elohim, creating them male and female.
Nada, as both male and female are after a colon, meaning that's an insertion in the text, and just like that, now these three Martins and these FDMs would go on and on about Adam being both genders. Man, Adam, was a copy of the angels, and man Eve. However, this other creation that came after is noted to be something else.
Elohim is the supernal Ima, who created without Abba, as has been explained. However, we now may understand that in addition to this foolish son, a female was produced who is the secret of this foolish son. A female was produced who is the secret of this sandal, as will be expounded further. Regarding this birth, it continues. The Gemara asks, why does the Mishnah mention that if a woman discharged a sandal fetus, she observes the strictures of a woman who gave birth both to a male and to a female? Since there is no such thing as a sandal fetus that does not have another offspring with it, which mashed it and gave it the form of a sandalfish, in any case the woman has the impurity of a woman after childbirth. This is because the sandal was birthed alongside the foolish son, as has been stated. The Gemara answers, if it is a female offspring that is born with the sandal fetus, it is indeed unnecessary to mention the halakha of the sandal fetus, as the woman is in any case impure for 2 weeks. But here we are dealing with a case where a male is born with it, on account of which the woman would be impure for only 7 days were it not for the sandal fetus. Because the sandal was born, and a male was born with it, i.e. the foolish son, It caused the woman to be impure for 7 days. In addition, it caused the entire house to be rendered impure, as will be explained.
Sounds familiar to someone. It also makes the entire earth or woman impure. Duly noted. Let's keep reading.
The Gemara discusses why the case of a woman who discharged a sandal fetus is mentioned in other Mishnayot, given that a sandal fetus always has a twin. First, the Gemara discusses the halakha of a woman who discharged a sandal fetus that we learned in a Mishnah. The Gemara answers, that halakha is relevant for a case where the sandal fetus's twin comes out of the womb after it. The Mishnah teaches that as the sandal fetus was born first, its twin is considered a firstborn with regard to inheritance, but it is not a firstborn with regard to redemption from a priest.
Sounds so familiar to something we just read through and will be reading through further.
The Gemara answers, that halakha is relevant for a case where the sandal fetus's twin comes out of the womb after it. The Mishnah teaches that as the sandal fetus was born first, its twin is considered a firstborn with regard to inheritance, but it is not a firstborn with regard to redemption from a priest. The Gemara answers, it is necessary for the Mishnah to state that if a woman gives birth to a full-fledged offspring by means of caesarean section and to a sandal fetus in a regular manner through the womb, in such a case she brings an offering for giving birth to the sandal fetus, despite the fact that she does not bring an offering for the full-fledged offspring, as one does not bring an offering for a birth by caesarean section.
A swire seahorse, or just a normal swire, whom are the ones getting the caesarean or caesarean section, because you know they're not fully genetic women?
The Gemara asks, but according to Rabbi Shimon, who said that an offspring which is delivered by means of caesarean section is considered a full-fledged offspring, and its mother does bring an offering, what is there to say? Why is it necessary for the Mishnah to state this halakha if the woman must bring an offering regardless of the sandal fetus? The full-fledged offspring here refers to the male, which is the foolish son, emerging from her own aspect like a caesarean section, while the sandal refers to the female, which was emerged through the womb.
Notice the amount of times twins are mentioned.
Rabbi Shimon says, the house does not become a tent over a corpse, as although there had been an offspring in the afterbirth, the offspring disintegrated, turning to blood, before it emerged from the womb, and it was negated by the majority of blood that accompanied the miscarriage. The fetus was born dead, and so it is written, the earth was formless, void, and darkness upon the face of the deep. It was explained that because Ema conceived of her own without Abba, she did not conceive of her own without Abba, she did not conceive with life, but rather death, and therefore the sandal was born dead. Gemara. The sages taught in a Bharatata with regard to the appearance of the afterbirth. At the outset of the pregnancy, the afterbirth is so thin that it is similar to a string of the woof, and at the end of the pregnancy it is much wider, similar in width to a lupine, and the afterbirth is hollow like a trumpet, and there is no afterbirth whose length is less than a handbreadth. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, an afterbirth is similar to the craw of roosters, from which the small intestine emerges.
That statement at the end. So strange, huh? So strange.
But we do not give her the days of purity that follow the period of impurity for a woman who gave birth, unless the embryo has grown hair. The period of impurity refers to an embryo that has grown hair, and this is a hint to Esau, who is the secret of the hair of the beard, as it has been established. Regarding this, the word Bereshit, 9:1/3, has the value of 9:1/3 Esau of Atziluth. Esau of Atziluth. Esau is the secret of that hair, as it is written, when her time to give birth was at hand, there were twins in her womb. The first one emerged red, like a hairy mantle all over, so they named him Esau. It has been established regarding this matter, as it is written, the beginning of Malkuth Babel, and Arek. Ema birthed a son with a sandal. These are Lilith and Samael. Now, hair is the secret of expansions, and so the squaring of the name of YHBH referring to the backsides has a value of 72. This refers to the world of Atziluth, and is hinted at by Bereshit, created 710. This refers to the backside of Atziluth, from which this son and the sandal emerged. This is the emanation of Samael Zakan as follows. The simple meaning of the text refers to the sheep and ox, which will be discussed later. This ox refers to what was established regarding the sandal, that it is like the tongue of an ox. The word utterly destroys.
Like the tongue of an ox. like an ox, like a bull. What is similar to a bull but not a bull? I wonder.
Sandal and son of Emah. This is regarding the commandment of Amalek. Utterly destroy them. The Hittites and the Amorites, the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the Hivites and the Jebusites, as your God has commanded you. Samuel 15:3. Now go, attack Amalek, and utterly destroy all that belongs to him. Spare no one, but kill alike men and women, infants and sucklings, oxen and sheep, camels and asses.
We are going to get into this part later on. Most of these nations mixed with Edom in some way or another.
Berash 913 has the value of 913 through the existence of Hasatan.
Isn't it interesting the amount of times Satan, which just means adversary, is used?
This text reveals the secrets of darkness, and as such reader be warned, this text is not for the faint of heart, and should be read carefully, and only after reading Sefer Yirah 4 and 5, as they contain the light needed to ground oneself during such revelations. And by the divinity of his Torah, which allows us to know such things and such conditions, without which we would be ignorant like our former conditions. To you be the glory and the glory of your Torah, and may every reader cherish the words of your Torah, the sin of the mother. 162. When he reached the world of separation, which is the world of those divided, that is, to create the soul of man in the world of Beriah. The craftsman then said to the owner of the building, Let us make man in our image, and after our likeness. Bereshit 5:26. The owner of the building said, I know will be a good servant for you, but he shall sin before you, because he is foolish, as it is written. A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is the grief of his mother. Mishlei 10,163, Emah said, Because his sins are related to Emah and not Abba, I wish to create him in my own image, as it is written, So Elohim created man in his own image. It is not written in our image because she did not want Abba to have any share in this creation. 164. When Adam sinned it was written, And for your transgressions Yor was your mother put away.
Notice that word again?
Yeshaiah 50. The king who is Abba said to Emah, Did I not tell you that he was going to sin? Why did you create him? In that instance he exiled him and his mother. Therefore it is written, A wise son maketh glad father, but a foolish son is the grief of his mother. A wise son alludes to the man in Atziluth, and a foolish son alludes to the man in Beriah. 165. All the friends rose and said to Rabbi Shimon in astonishment, Rabbi, Rabbi, could there be such separation between Abba and Amma? So much so that what emanated from the aspects of Abba shall be formed in the way of Atziluth, and that which emanated from the aspects of Emah shall be formed in the way of Beriah. I will now open these gates and answer the Holy One, blessed be he. Who is he who said, Let us make man? And Elohim said, And who is this name of Elohim? In the meantime, the venerated old man flew away, and he could not see him. When Rabbi Shimon heard that he called him Shimon, and not Rabbi Shimon, he said to his friends, This is indeed the Holy One, blessed be he, of whom it is written of, and an Atik Yumin, Ancient of Days, did sit. Now is the time to reveal this secret, which was previously forbidden to be revealed. However, permission has now been granted to reveal it. That craftsman did not do anything without the permission of the king, as it is written. Then I was by him as a nursling. The king is most certainly the supernal wisdom above, which is Abba, and the central pillar is the king down below, namely Zir Anpin. Elohim, the craftsman above, is the supernal Emah, and the craftsman below is the Shekhinah below. Here are the levels of the mothers, Torah symbolized by which is the level of the ears being Binah. Here alludes to Malkuth called the wheel, and so he reveals the secret of the craftsman being the mother, and Malkuth, a separation between the upper king Abba and Chokmah, and the lower king called a foolish king is made, but that the craftsmen are the same.
Teaspoons of salt.
161. A wife is not permitted to do anything without the permission of her husband. Of all the buildings that were in the way of Atziluth, that is, in the world of Atziluth, Abba would say to Emah, Let it be so-and-so, and it was immediately. It is written, And Elohim said, Let there be light, and there was light. And said alludes to the owner of the building, who said to Elohim, Let there be light. So uttered the words, and the craftsman completed the task immediately. And this was the same for every edifice that came into being by way of Atziluth, where Abba would say, "Let there be a firmament," or "Let there be luminaries," and Ima would create everything in an instance. That is to say, when the light of the Ayin was filling the first Zimzem, which is Chokmah of the Atigyomin, and is referred to here as the upper king and Abba. The craftsman and Ima refer to the hard spark, which is the Bina of the Atigyomin. When he reached the world of separation, which is the world of those divided, that is to say, the hard spark, which was Ima at the limit of the correction. Let us make man, Zohar Berashit, A1, making an engraving upon the supernal light. Thus the mother Ima as well had a desire to create and emanate, being as the light that initially withdrew contained this desire to create. The supernal light of the endless, which is Abba, knew that her conception would be foolish, and sin being that its very existence was a sin. Regarding this son it is written, "My mother conceived me in sin," and foolish, because it will be conceived outside of the light of life and in darkness, of which it was written, "Fools despise wisdom and instruction." 163, Ima said, "Because his sins are related to Ima and not Abba, I wish to create him in my own image, as it is written, so Elohim created man in his own image. It is not written in our image, because she did not want Abba to have any share in this creation."
By the way, just so you aren't confused, Amma here is, as some would say, the woman of the Garden of Eden at that time, attempting to mimic the angels and the men in creating man Adams and her fleshly selves.
Thus Ima being the hard spark, conceived of its own light, as it is written, wisdom in understanding, and she used the wisdom which was the light and life within herself, and conceived and brought forth a golem, and this is the value of the word wisdom, Chokmah. Wisdom in understanding was the conception of a golem by the mother, and it was born dead being. It was not conceived of. Life, and of this, it is written of David, the beloved of his mother, that he was born dead. This son refers to the lower seven, who was the king. Below is the middle pillar, referring to the lower seven Sephiroth, which are the seven sparks that emerged from the hard spark, and the place of their emergence was darkness, as it is written, "The wicked are silent in darkness. This foolish son is the foolish king." Because it was of the mother, it was written, "But the foolish man's heart directs him toward the left." Now she was called the 36th of the Eternals, brought forth being that in the construction of Atziluth there is the name of the Father being. And in each place this name arises, and as explained in its place, the Tzimtzum, and subsequently this first eternal realm. Being Atziluth was the secret of the Nicodim. There are 9 Nicodim, and there are 4 letters of to each. Thus she is said to have been the 36th, being the hard spark, which is Ima, and the Malkuth of this aspect. Now because of this connection to Malkuth here, she will later conceal herself amongst the dust. Now when she conceived, and when this foolish son emerged, it was so on the outside of the realm of life, which is darkness, being the backside of the eternal, and the backside of thee. And so it was called mindlessness, because it was outside the aspects of Chokmah and Bina, which were called mind. And being the she could only conceive light of an inferior order, that is to say, less than her own light, she conceived 7, herself being the 8th, and she would find rest in the 9th, with her husband Abba.
Mindlessness, mindlessly babbling of these Freemartins and these FTMs is so exhausting, wouldn't you say? It's almost as if they are...
Now Ima, who is the wisdom and afterthought, and who constitutes an eternal realm, conceived of a thought herself with the conception of the wisdom within her. She wanted to bring forth something like herself, without the consent of Abba, who had not given its approval, without her partner, and without his consideration. The male did not give approval. She did not find her partner, and she considered this without the spirit's consent, and without the knowledge of her partner. Nonetheless, she gave birth. And because of the invincible power within her, her thought was not an idle thought. Something came out of her that was imperfect and different in appearance from her, for she had produced it without her partner. It did not resemble its mother and was misshapen. Now when Ima saw what her desire had produced, it changed into the figure of a snake with the face of a lion. Its eyes were like flashing bolts of lightning. She cast it away from her, outside that realm, so that none of the immortals would see it. She had produced it ignorantly.
A snake with a lion's head.
Where have we seen this before? Demiurge. Eat him again. And again.
And so we see. The mother and the son were put away, because he emerged from outside the light, and was ignorant of his existence, and was called foolish. He despised the father, whom he was ignorant of, out of which it is written, A fool despises wisdom. The mother sinned in conceiving this foolish child, as it is written, My mother conceived me in sin, and so she was exiled by her partner, whom she sinned against. And because she conceived him of herself, and without life, which was her partner, this child was born dead, and is the origin of all death. For this reason our sages stated, Death was from Beriah and below, for everything that this foolish king would create would ultimately be admixture with death and ignorance like himself, of which it was stated that the angels do not know the place of his glory, for they were conceived in ignorance. And the lights that emerged in this place were the heaven and the earth. And they were the lower seven, and everything was in darkness and extinguished, being tohu, and mindlessness. And the light, which was the light of the mother that had produced these 7 sparks, which are this foolish son, mingled with the tohu mindlessness, by which he was called foolish and ignorant, and by which it was likened to whoring, and the sparks mingled. That is to say, coupled and exchanged qualities with the mindlessness from which it was written. And the earth was void. That is to say, 7, male and female. Now what remained was Rahab the harlot, and she is the secret of the female. And this is what is written, the Leviathan Nachash Barak. And she was a harlot because the city, i.e. the sparks, had coupled with her, and she is the secret of the tohu in the midst. And she was the center of the city, and the sparks coupled with the mindlessness, of this second restriction being 7 in number. And regarding this it is written, When I made the clouds its garment, and wrapped it in thick darkness. It is written also, That day will be a day of wrath, a day of distress and anguish, a day of trouble and ruin, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and blackness. Zephaniah 1:15. And these 7 are the 7 of the first verse, which is, In another place it is written, She surrounded him with a cloud, and put a throne in the middle of the cloud, so that no one would see it, and she called it Elohim like herself. Then he left her, and moved away from the place where he was born. He took control and created for himself heavens with the light of his mother that was instilled within him, and from which he was ignorant of. He mated with the mindlessness in him, and produced 7 kings, and these were the kings of Edom who died. Elohim stationed 7 kings, one for each of the 7 spheres of heaven, to reign over the 7 heavens. When the light mixed with darkness, it made the darkness shine. When darkness mixed with light, it dimmed the light, and became neither light nor darkness, but gloom.
Grains of salt again.
And the foolish king was death, being born dead, having not the quality called life from Abba. And the Zohar states the serpent brought forth wrath, being this lion-headed serpent of which it is written, The king's wrath is like the roaring of a lion. By this we see wrath brought forth, and to one side the darkness, and to the other the light. And from these 2 many demons and destroying angels emerged, as it is written, He sent upon them his burning anger, fury, and indignation, and trouble, a band of destroying angels. And he prepared with his right hand a certain heaven, and by means of the pattern of the mother. And these had the face of a lion like himself, and being of the lower 7, they had the faces of animals. And it was written regarding this, They all had the face of a lion to the right side. And he prepared with his left a certain heaven, and by means of the pattern of the mother, and these had the face of an ox. And of this it is written, They all had the face of an ox to the left side, and a certain other heaven, and here they had the face of an eagle. As it is written, They all had the face of an eagle. And on the 6th day a certain one, by which it is written, Let us make man after our image. And of this it is written, They all had the face of man.
Grains of salt again. Remember what I mentioned about the angels and man.
And none of these knew the place of his glory, as they were conceived in ignorance. But after the pattern of the higher things, which was the light of his mother within, thus he spoke. It is written regarding these matters, that each of these 4 faces had 4 faces, 4 times 4 times, or equal 72. And these are the 72 faces of the foolish king. Alongside this there were 72 wings, which were appointed to the 72 faces. These watch over the 70 nations of whom they watch and rule. The wings were the secret of the 18 knots of the 4 corners of the tallit, and they total 72, 18 plus 18 plus 18 plus 18 equals 72. He wraps himself with 86 angels, being 42, Seraphim and 42 Ophanim, and the two Metatron and Sandalphon alongside them, value Elohim 86. It was written regarding this 7 days under the mother, for these days were under the mother, being outside the mother. For these days were under the mother, being outside the mother. A day is 6, being the secret of Seraphim, and 42 Ophanim, which were the days under its mother. It was written in a certain place. Each of these 7 received 6.
We will bypass this, and I will tell you the seed in the sack, or the dragons in the sack, for YouTube's sake. These sets of texts from the Freemartins. Suppose that Rabbi is encrypted text explaining the male body if you haven't picked up on it. The father and Elohim are biological males,
as Abahala resides in heaven, not earth. The earth being female, and is the self-eating, reflective-scaled snake matrix.
you know, men, broads, as these Freemartins may say. Upper heaven is a biological male paradise, a place where the magical dragons fly about. Those that can create, you know what I mean. And heaven on earth refers to a biolocal man's paradise on earth. Again, there were no quote unquote women at that time in existence besides the supposedly matrix or flesh earth herself.
And it was explained when the foolish king emerged, he did so by the lower 7, and these worlds cascaded and created the hairs of his garment, and he was called hairy. Cain and similarly Esau would follow in this likeness.
Esau eat him again and again and again.
From this it was stated by our sages, and in the Zohar, the children of the serpent shave their hair.
I wonder who has a culture of shaving their hair to hide their widow's peak, receding hairline, and baldness.
He gathered 365 demons, which were of the darkness, and formed 365 aspects of the flesh, and 248 destroying angels from the right, and formed the 248 bones of the man. And he gathered them from the dust in the pattern of the divine.
Again, the male body is different from the biological woman's and the Freemartin's body. My bone structure is a lot different, and because of this, my and the other biological males have a straight, short angle legs and gait. When we move our feet, you can clearly see the difference in comparison to the Freemartins. The long torso, broad diaphragm, broad sternum, straight broad clavicles, combined with our upper humerus bone, our upper arm, or our long bull necks, causes us to have a tone shift beyond the natural testosterone. As such, you can still hear the deep reverberating angel voice on the swires, hence castratos, including our broad faces and wide mandibles, of course. Those play a part in it. Also in the way we walk. My arms and the others are long, and the elbow angles inward to the hips as we walk. Our lower arms angle, angel, inward towards the patella. You can see more bird, dragon, than man. Our hips don't swing like a bell from side to side as a biological woman's does. Our hip bones are the narrow part of the overall body, which is the complete opposite for the Freemartins, FDMs, and biological women, childbearing hips and all that.
However, all of these 365 demons were formed and created in ignorance as they emerged from the left, which is darkness, and they did not have light, which is life. And so even though they assembled alongside these 248 destroying angels in the divine pattern, the man was not living, as they themselves were not living. And lacking the quality of Abba, which is life, this man was manifested dead like himself. And so he breathed into his nostrils the neshama, which was the light of the mother. And this light entered the man, and he lived. This life was from the wisdom in understanding. And so they formed the man, and investigated and brought to him beasts, and had him commingle with the beasts as he had commingled, and with the mindlessness. He achieved this by commingling the beasts, which are the destroying angels and demons that were brought forth from the commingling of the initial mindlessness with this man.
The human body is made up of how much water, and electricity, and or plasma? Notice again, flesh is being referenced to as a female. Beasts are also being referenced to as destroying angels. So those that mean that Eve or Lilith are in fact some kind of beast, while man, Adam, is referenced to as the behemoth in that context. The behemoth the bones and the land, the hard angel part, and the Leviathan, the flesh, the sea of the water.
A deep sleep was placed upon the man, and he was separated from the side, and this was the limits of the darkness that had entered into him. The woman was formed from this darkness of the commingling with these beasts, and so she is called by the 52 name which is the value of beast. The woman was brought to the man, and it did not say that it was good. For this woman, being darkness and death herself, would succeed in the ends of this foolish king's endeavor to curse the man.
He, in this case, Adam, saw through what the other man were doing. Word is that Adam had to be put to sleep. Whatever that sleep means, causes the Adams to not care that Eve was a literal Leviathan.
And they prevented the man from eating of the tree of life, as it is written, lest he extend his hand and eat of the tree of life, and live forever. Because this tree was the tree of their life, and eating of this tree would cause these 365 demons and 248 destroying angels to be removed, and the man would become purified. These 248 bones and 365 aspects of flesh, having removed their curses upon the light of that man.
Meaning he would be turned into a man, basically. An angel, for whatever that means in such a context. By the way, if you haven't picked up on it by now, why does the Adam sound like a synthetic clay version of man? And if this be true, what is man's 2 made of? Okay, the original one, not the angels. This would go along with the mystery of what a number of people are thinking, that the current body we have today is less or lacking, maybe less than the ones, say, 500 to 1,000 years ago.
Now this Neshama, being the light and power of the mother, was eternal, and so the man could not die, as it is written, on the day you eat of it you shall die. And so before this matter it was not possible to being that the Neshama contained life. Seeking to understand his own ignorance, he made from the dust demons and destroying angels, as it is written, Elohim formed from the ground every beast of the field, and every bird of the air, and he brought them to the man. And this coupling and defilement has been explained, and this was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the whoring of the mother, as is written, You were a whore for the sons of Egypt, men of flesh, for they were the creations and children of Pharaoh, who is called Elohim, and of the left alone being called flesh, as they were conceived of her.
Oh, this part. Keep that also in mind. It'll pop up again. Egypt, fruit, men of flesh, and robotoids. The entire part down here is incorrect or inverted. We will skip past some of the Freemartin's babble there.
And so it is. The soul is entombed in the material, being the woman, who is indeed cursed. I asked for permission to reveal such things, and it was given for your sake, that you may see your condition, and I was sent to explain these things for this purpose, and we will discuss the garden. Now, the rulers who are the kings of Edom took Adam and put him into the garden, and they said, Eat, as it is written, of every tree you may eat. But in fact their pleasure is bitter, and their beauty is perverse. Their pleasure is a trap, their trees a sacrilege, their fruit is a deadly poison, their promise is death. They put their tree of life in the middle of paradise. And now we should discuss the particulars of this matter. The roots of this tree is bitterness. Its branches are idolatry. Its shadow is hatred. A trap is in its leaves. Its odor is a stench, and its fruit is death. Now I will reveal a certain matter. This serpent is without creation, and without death or lineage, and is so because it was the benevolent spirit sent forth from the cause of all causes, he concealment of all concealments. Being that the man was the gathering of all light to one side, and he himself being benevolent, knew he would be recognized, and so he appeared to the woman who was the darkness of the soul. The serpent said, What joy did he say to you? Was it from every tree, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil do not eat? The woman said, Not only this, but do not touch, for the day you eat from it, you shall surely die. The serpent, perceiving she was death, could not be afflicted by death, and he informed her by touching the tree. This woman is called Lilith, because it is written of the darkness, and darkness he called night. Now having light within her darkness, she appeared to the man, him being light, and having noticed light within her, and that the darkness had been altered, desired to conceive for himself that light, laboring in secret the Neshama, which was the dust of the earth, as it is written of that one who is like the sun. Yaakov, who was blessed to be as the dust, for his portion was the birthright, and this is the Neshama by which a man may understand. And therefore it is written, You will know, and similarly to know that Hashem he is the Elohim, for knowing is what is required for the increase of the light. Now in the latter time Esau will serve Yaakov, and the older will serve the younger, to endeavor the correction, for his ignorance will be lifted.